Alright guys, so to start off with, I have my rough sketch ready here. And the first step is always to blend those rough lines out. That's what I'm doing right here. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that whenever you are painting fair-skinned portrait, you want to make sure that the outline color that you're using must be maybe maroon or some dark brown or maroon color or maybe some dark reddish or pinkish tone. And when you are painting a dark skinned portrait, make sure you are using something like dark blue or maybe really deep dark brown. Now, this really impacts the overall painting. So if you get this right, if you get this first step right, everything else gonna just fall right back into the place. So you wanna make sure that you are using a correct color for the outlines. Other thing I want to mention is that I'm really sorry for the audio. I do not really have my mic with me. I'm doing a lot of traveling these days. So, but I promise that in the next tutorial, I'll be using my mic with, and I'll be posting a tutorial with the proper audio. So yeah, once you are happy with those blended rough sketches, what you want to do is you want to pick up really deep maroon color, as you guys can see right here. And you want to use this color to add detailing to the parts like nostrils and the area around the mouth, also the eyeliner as well. So basically, wherever there is really darkness, or for example, nostrils are going to be dark, obviously, so you want to make sure you're using some deep maroon or maybe some dark color like that, but not exactly black. It just doesn't really look good, at least for me. So if you want to try it out with black, you can do that, but it looks really good when you're using some deep maroon color for a fair-skinned portrait painting. So that's what I'm doing right here, and the brush that I'm using is soft air brush. And throughout the video, I've used soft blend and also soft air brush. So basically, the aim when we are painting skin is to make sure we are not blending everything out. So keep a goal in your head that you want to avoid using the blending tool as much as you possibly can. But even if you want to use it, or let's just say you messed something up, you can just always go ahead and use the blending tool. But the aim should be to avoid using it as much as you can. So yeah, these were the first two steps. Now, once you're happy with the detailing part of it, what you want to do is you want to pick up your soft air brush and start filling in the little shapes that the face has. For example, iris, lips, and eyebrows. So this is the next step because we want to create a solid base before we start adding any shadows or highlights. Similarly with the face, now in my painting, I had skin colored background. And this is the reason why I didn't really add skin color separately on a separate layer, because my background was acting as a base layer for my skin painting. But if you have a background which is really different from skin color, or you just have completely different background, make sure the first step is to add a base color, base skin color. So please do not forget that. We really need a solid base before we can create good shadows and good highlights. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just going to fast forward this process. Now, once you're happy with the colors that you have added into the shapes, you want to start with the first layer of the shadows. And yeah, so what I did is I picked up this dark skin color, a color which is slightly darker than the base color. But here I made sure that I'm not really putting much pressure and doing it really lightly because I wanted to create a base first before I can go ahead and deepen those shadows up. So that's what I'm doing here. But if you're not really good with pressure sensitivity just yet, what you can do is you can pick up a color which is not too dark from this base skin color, and you can use that color to create a base layer or base structure for the shadows. Now, this layer or this step is going to help us later in the process into deciding where we want to put more darkness, where we want to put more highlights and stuff like that. So that's that. And here I'm using soft blend brush. Now, I love this brush because this brush not only paints, it also blends at the same time. I remember saying that avoid using blending tool as much as you can, but I would suggest if your software doesn't have a soft blend brush or any brush which is similar to that, what you can do is you can pick up any hard airbrush and pick up your blending tool and start adding shadows with that hard airbrush and just blend those out really, really lightly, because we want to make sure that in our painting we have a good balance between soft shadows and highlights and harsh looking shadows and highlights, because we don't want the face to look ashy or smoothed out or as if there is no depth on the face. So to create depth, it is always necessary to have some harsh looking shadows. Now, the reason why I love soft blend brush is because it does not add too much right away. It does not look that harsh, but at the same time it is harsh enough to create good depth and shadows. So I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. But you can achieve this with any other brush that you want. But do not use soft airbrush here, because soft airbrush would not really help you in adding some harsh shadows. So if you do not have this brush, again, just go ahead with some medium or really hard kind of airbrush, and that will work for you. So that's what I'm doing right here. I am just adding this base layer of the shadows. You can just follow the exact same thing that I'm doing right here and add shadows to the exact same areas on your painting as well, just for practice. So guys, this video is not really about painting eyebrows, eyelashes, and lips, and also iris as well, but I do have in-depth tutorials on my channel which I'll be linking down in the description so that you guys can go ahead and watch those tutorials to learn how to actually create eyebrows, how to create eyelashes, how to shade iris, and how to perfectly shade lips. So that is the reason why I didn't include this part in this tutorial, because I mainly wanted to focus on the skin part of it, and because I already have a lot of tutorials on eyebrows, eyelashes, iris, and lips and whatnot. So yeah, just go ahead and do check out the description box below. But yeah, I already do have a skin tutorial on my channel already, but I just wanted to update it a little bit, so I decided to create a new tutorial on it. So right after creating the base layer of the shadows, you want to make sure you are painting the eyes and also creating the eyebrows and everything, and you're completing it, because this is just going to help us in deciding how much pigmentation we want in our shadows. Alright, so this is really necessary that you paint the eyes and the eyebrows and the eyelashes and everything before you start with your shadow part of it, or really just adding more depth to the face. So here now what I'm doing is, once that I have my base layer of shadows and also completed eyes, I'm going to just pick up the same color that I picked up initially and I'm just going to add more depth to the already created shadows. Now, how I do it is, first of all, in the first step, as we created this base layer for the shadows, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush a little bit, and then I'm just going to add depth or more color just right over the base layer of the shadows. Now what it does is it helps in creating this really nice effect where you can see this really dark pigmented shadow, but you cannot really tell where that is going, where that color is going, because it's so nicely blended with the base layer of shadow, and then it's so nicely blended with the skin that you cannot really tell, but you can tell that it's there. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. In the second go, you want to make sure you're just decreasing the size of the brush just a little bit and adding more depth and more pigmentation of the color from the brush by putting more pressure onto the screen this time around to add